Oh, yeah, baby. Here we go. The incredibly sophisticated Clark the Shark Network is on the air again for Sunday, January 30 or 31. I don't even know. Sunday, the Lord's Day. Sunday, fun day for Sharky, for sure. When I'm talking about the Small Faces 1967 album, baby. Now, this group here, hugely influential. I know that Paul Weller from The Jam loved them. Everyone did. Pete Townsend. Now, of course, Steve Marriott would go heavy rocking, and he would form Humble Pie later on with Peter Frampton, but I'm not going to talk about that band right now. I'm talking about the Small Faces. And Rod Stewart, who played with the Jeff Beck group, of course, with Truth, him and, the dude from the Stones, Ronnie Wood. Actually, Ronnie Wood is like the only guy I like from the Stones anymore. I can't stand Mick Keith, or they don't have Bill. He was another guy I liked. I don't even really like Ronnie Wood. I don't like any of the Stones. I love Charlie as a human being, but his drumming is awful. Sort of like Lars Ulrich from the Beatles. I don't respect bad drummers. Pete Best, Ron Nasty said, was such a bad drummer, and Dirk McQuickley backs that up. But I've heard the recordings with the Ruddles on Archaeology, also known as Anthology, the early days before Lars was in the band. And I will admit, Pete Best in the studio is mediocre at best, maybe sub-mediocre. Yes, he might be considered a bad drummer, you guys. And Dirk and Ron might actually technically be right. But live, when the girls are screaming and the crowd is drunk and everyone's just having fun, you can't even tell that Pete Best was or wasn't in the band. This fact here really makes me angry at Dirk, especially, but also at Ron. The way they railroaded Pete Best out of the band. Maybe he wasn't the world's greatest drummer live or in the studio, but like George Martin and Brian Epstein both said, we can just replace him in the studio with another drummer, and live, no one's going to hear him anyway because the birds will be screaming. Now, fortunately for the Small Faces 1967 album, they had a really fucking good drummer named Kenny Jones, who later played with The Who, of course, replacing a very un-Lars Ulrich-like drummer named Keith Moon, an incredible drummer. Maybe the Ruddles should have called Keith on the phone instead of Lars. But, we'll never know. Fate would have it, circumstances, and all that. Here on the Clark the Shark Show, the fabulous golden EIB Sharkerphone. It's not a microphone because, baby, when the Wolfman Jack on crack is talking about stuff and shit like the Small Faces 1967, I'm talking about fucking good shit, baby. I always am. I mean, that's all I do. I think that's why people in Los Angeles and the South Bay are like, Clark the Shark's always full of shit, and he lives in his own little world, and he never knows what the fuck he's ever talking about. It's because most of them are Democrat liberals, and Democrat liberals don't know what the fuck they're talking about as they accuse you of doing what they do routinely day to day. You know, taking you to court and saying you slandered them when they slandered you, getting a settlement of $83 million against you when they owe you fucking $83 million. Yeah, that's Democrat liberals for you. And then you got plenty of mealy mouth GOP repubs like Mitt Douchney sitting there backing the liberal Democrats in their assault on you and freedom. You know, in the past it was Jeff Flake and John McShane and, you know, clowns like that, Mike Lee, Marco Duccio. You know, we got plenty of them now too, right here in 2024 on the Clark the Shark Show. I just hate all politics and labels. I'm a member of the Natural Shark Party. I'm neither now. I was a Republican, GOP conservative, but they would never back me. They'd be the first fucking one in line saying, oh, Clark the Shark lives in his own little world. He never knows what he's talking about. Don't listen to him. Don't ever listen to Clark the Shark. What the fuck does he know anyway? Listen to me. I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat fucking expert. Right here on the Sharky Show, 1-800-449-8255. But Sharky does know about the small faces. Unlike most of you out there, you all know about stuff like Douche Grohl and Modest Mouse and The Killers and Blink 182. Well, what do you know? What the fuck do any of you know? Nothing compared to me, Clark the Shark, who knows shit like Frank Zappa, etc., baby. And I probably know more about you, yourself, than you'll ever even know. Yeah, liberal, Democrat, or mealy-mouth conserve. Maybe North Korea will fucking send a missile your way, or Vladimir Putin, or somebody, maybe Satan himself. Sometimes I root for the dark side so long as it gets rid of you, because it's most of you who don't know what you're talking about right here on the Clark the Shark Show. While I myself usually do, and I even did long ago in 1977-78 at Newton Middle School in Torrance, just as I said all along, and at South High and El Camino, and later on the internet. It's you guys who don't know what you're talking about, but I'll just leave you to your drinking, because you do that better than thinking, right here on the Sharky Show, where I got to break down this Small Faces album because I really loved this band, Small Faces. And I had all their albums in my vinyl collection. I admit they weren't in great condition. And usually I just bought them, you know, at the Rhodium in Torrance, or Go Boy Records down in Redondo Beach, or, you know, Zed Records, or some garage sale, or Swap Meet, whatever. Just to have them, you know. But this band, I am like a lot of people. I revere, regard, and respect the Small Faces. And the Faces later with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood. I respected them too. And later on, listen to this, you guys. The Small Faces would come again in the latter part of the 1970s. I believe this entire lineup, I could be wrong, but they would reunite and record some albums that were pretty good, but didn't get critical, accolades or whatever that they deserved. But me, Clark the Shark, one day I will review all Small Faces albums, you guys. And I will tell you the truth. And the only review you'll ever need or ever want, you will get from Clark the Shark, just like all my reviews. Now, this band here, who everyone loves, because they're so important in the history of rock. I don't blame the Jam for loving this shit. Come on. It's awesome. I don't really care what the stars say. But if you want to hear R&B, psychedelic pop, psychedelic rock, or just good rock and roll, sometimes I hate the word psychedelic because it's on everything in 1967, whether the album actually is psychedelic or not. Oh, there's Olympic Studios. Many great bands recorded there, among them The Who, Stones, and others, you guys. That's an important place. Olympic Studios, Glyn Johns. I like to hang out there and do albums. And All Music gives it a 5, you guys. Hell yeah. Classic rock, only an 8 out of 10. I wonder what Rolling Stone. They only gave it a 3.5. Well, they're waiting around with their finger in the wind, seeing what better critics like Clark the Shark think. And track number 1, the Steve Marriott classic, Tell Me, Have You Ever Seen Me? Side 1 gets going, rocking, baby. And that's something I want to tell you, me, Sharky. Because are you feeling lonely, baby? If you are, you got to come to Clark the Shark, because I'm a happy boys, happy. All these songs should be lit up in blue at Wikipedia. R&B, rock and roll, not really garage. This is 1967, and there was Polish. This album kind of reminds me of Little Games by the Yardbirds. Doesn't really sound like that, not like that, but I get that vibe. And Things Are Going to Get Better, a song I love. Marriott. Green Circles, Marriott. And the whole band chimes in on that one. I love the vocal back and forth, Lane and Marriott, or, whatever, dude. And I love the Kenny Jones drumming. This band has a secret weapon, a little advantage over other bands with Kenny Jones, And side 2 is incredible, you guys. I know a lot of critics don't swear like they just their allegiance and love for and to this album. But Become Like You, Marriott and Lane. I love the vocal thing they do. Marriott worked better as a hard rock and heavy metal inventor with Humble Pie later on. With Peter Frampton and all that. It was incredible, you guys. But there's something about Lane and Marriott and Kenny Jones and McLagan and this band. Get Yourself Together, of course, incredible. Marriott. All Our Yesterdays Should Be Up in Blue. Lane, great song. And Talk to You. If you want to hear R&B that kicks ass, guitar driven, not really jangly, it is, but it's like rocking heavy. You can feel Humble Pie beginning in this album, you guys. Talk to You, Steve Marriott. Come on. Show Me the Way, Ronnie Lane, of course. Amazing, amazing. And McLagan had to write one, Up the Wooden Hills to Bedfordshire. A song I love. Ian McLagan singing too. Eddie's dreaming. Eddie Canastrossi, you're really good. You're incredible, Eddie, but you're dreaming if you ever think you can be like Clark the Shark. My vast encyclopedia knowledge of rock and roll music and all music, even Mozart, Beethoven, Little Richard, Richie Valens. There is no human being on earth like Clark the Shark that knows like me, you guys. Not even Frank Zappa himself. No one, baby. Because nobody knows the small faces like Clark the Shark. I'm surprised. This is my first review of these guys in years. On my old account that was banned and deleted by YouTube, I made some political videos back in it was long ago. I did all these small faces reviews, and they were so funny and good, and they're all gone. They're all banned and deleted by the liberals at YouTube, who said they were copyright infringing. They didn't even say because of misinformation or disinformation or any of that time. Liberals and Democrats will just ban you when they can't beat you in an argument at all. Okay, you guys. So they ban and delete you every time. And then in the city, like of Torrance, for example, they'll try to turn everyone against you. Like, ooh, Clark the Shark, he lives in his own little world, so don't be his friend. And every now and then there's one guy in a car that drives up to me and looks at me, and he's like, gives me the thumbs up, and he's like, right on, Clark the Shark, you're right. Most of these fuckers around here are douchebags. You nail it exact. And I'm like, hell yeah, baby. Come on over to the Sharky side where I'm talking about the small faces. Not the faces with Rod Stewart, no. I'm talking about Kenny Jones here, the great drummer, as he was known in England. Before Roger Daltrey of The Who said all those bad, unfair things about him. When he was on Face Dances and It's Hard, Roger was like, oh, I don't feel his drumming. What the fuck do you know, Roger? I respect and revere and love Roger. But don't ever talk shit about Kenny Jones. He's a fucking great drummer. And if it wasn't for guys like Keith Moon and John Bonham and, etc., Carl Palmer, I can go down the list, Kenny Jones would be much more well known. He's an incredible drummer. I mean, there's great drummers, Bobby Caldwell, Ainsley Dunbar, Chester Thompson, Neil Peart, me, Clark the Shark. There's great drummers in the world who, they drown out the noise about someone great like Kenny Jones. Faces and small faces and The Who. What is Roger Daltrey fucking saying? What is he talking about, dude? The Who kicked Kenny Jones out of the fucking band, for crying out loud, man. Kenny Jones could have been in with The Who to this very day. If Roger hadn't hated the guy. I mean, Entwistle loved his drumming, and so did Pete. And Rabbit Bundrick, the keyboardist, was perfectly A-OK with Kenny Jones. I don't know what Roger has against Kenny Jones. But so what do The Who do? They go and hire Lars Ulrich's son, Zach Ulrich, another shitty drummer just like his dad. Yeah, The Who get that fucking guy, and they get rid of Kenny Jones. By the way, Who? You guys had Simon Phillips. I mean, dude, Simon fucking Phillips. You get rid of him, and you hire Zach Ulrich, Lars's son? Really? The Who? To drum with you? I just would have kept Kenny Jones. I wouldn't have even had Simon Phillips. Fuck that, too. Kenny Jones is awesome. He makes this album, 1967, Small Faces, you guys. He makes this album great. The other guys, McLagan, Lane, and Marriott, all, guys that, I can see these guys just hanging out in a bar and, having a few drinks. They're just, just a happy little sorority, fraternity, panty raiding, drunken weirdos. And then you add Rod Stewart to the mix later on with Ronnie Wood. I mean, it's sad what happened to the Small Faces. This band was perfect as they were, but then the Who got heavy, Zeppelin hit the scene, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Jethro Tull, all that. Humble Pie had to come into being, and Steve Marriott had to go heavy, and he met up with Frampton, and baby, they did indeed. But for a short while in the late 60s in the UK, in England, there was this thing called Small Faces, a band that I, Clark the Shark, love. It's R&B, kick-ass rock and roll, guitar-driven, Kenny Jones-driven drumming. Everyone's important here. Lane is important. Ian McLagan's important. They're all important. And they're a happy little family, And, the Faces with Rod Stewart, they were happy too, And they really were bigger than the Ruddles, you guys. I know Ron Nasty's like, oh, we were bigger than Jesus Christ as a thing, oh God. What I meant was Rod, from the Faces. You guys, nothing's bigger than Rod. I mean, I love the Faces too. I'm going to review those albums, you guys. I don't like Rod Stewart solo, but I love him with Jeff Beck Truth, and I fucking love him with the Faces. But I love the Small Faces more, and I love this album. I want you to buy it. And if you're just 20 years old right now, in 2024 January, and you were born in 2004 when I lived over in Shadow Ridge Vista, I just drove over there down Shadow Ridge Drive, and I checked out the Shadow Ridge Aspens where I used to live, and it looks exactly the same in 2024 as it did when I lived there in 2004. And I remember I had a really good life back then in those days. There was so much more I should have and could have done, you guys. But the good Lord had it all the way it is. I don't know why, or maybe I chose it. Who knows? Here in the Sharkulation that I write, some of you are rich and some of you are poor, and that's how I write you. But forever, the Small Faces, Clark the Shark invented them, and I'm going to be honest and just break it down here, you guys. I recorded all these instruments on this album, and I wrote this entire album and produced it. It wasn't Glenn Johns at Olympic. It was me, Clark the Shark, somewhere in Redondo Beach or Torrance. There is no Faces. I just made these guys up. And I made them fucking amazing and rock, baby. And I want you to buy this album and all their albums, and definitely buy some early Rod Stewart and buy the Faces with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood. And get anything with Kenny Jones on it, because he's a fucking great drummer, no matter what Roger Daltrey says, right here on the Clark the Shark Show. That's right, young person born in 2005 or 2004. I want you to go buy the Faces at Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, and the Small Faces. Because you just got the only review of this R&B kick-ass polished garage rock. It's not garage rock. This isn't Little Sharky's Underground Garage. Even though this is a 1967 album, this kicks ass, and it's all about presence. It's not about reverb or sounding like a long time ago. This album sounds almost like it could have been recorded last week. It is fucking awesome. That being said, it sounds very much 1960s. I want you to buy it, because you just got the only review you will ever want or ever need from me, baby, the one and only Clark the Shark, right here from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. It's not a microphone, because it was given to me by Hush Bimbo. From the fabulous EIB network, He died of cancer, you guys. Hush Bimbo, as he was dying and breathing his last breaths, he gave the golden EIB Sharkerphone to me, and he christened it. I swear to God, you guys, I'm not making that up. Hush Bimbo himself gave me the Sharkerphone. And he even said, Sharky, I want you to do a review about the Small Faces. Kenny Jones, Steve Marriott, geniuses, you guys. All these guys. There's Waldo's in this video. Now, some of you are newbies at Waldo's, but I will give you a free Greenhouse Effect GE, the rock opera White Suburban Liars. If you find the Waldo's, you point them out, Clay Hagen at AOL.com, CLAHAGIN at AOL.com. You get an autographed Clark the Shark CD, the rock opera White Suburban Liars. I want you to hear Misa Gynistia, She's a Bitch and Then You Live, the way it really sounds. Not on the internet here. It's, kind of fuzzy. I want you to have the CD of all my amazing songs. I want you to hear how the White Black song really sounds. It sounds incredible on the CD, you guys, mixed and produced by Bill Cradell at El Segundo's Jet City Sound way back in the day, where I will weave more memories about the South Bay, and I'll talk about all this great music that I do on the internet that you guys love all over the world. A lot of you are like, Shark, tell me the story behind the song, or how was the sun shining that day when you recorded this track, Sharky? And I'm going to be like, I don't remember, but it was fucking amazing back in the day. Sharky was all alone, no friends. I could just keep to myself. And it was grand. And I could write my little songs in my own little world. And now today, my little songs loom very important on the internet, while a lot of you in the South Bay and elsewhere around Los Angeles are often emailing me saying, Sharky, I want to get my music on the web. I want to be seen on the internet, Shark, just like you. And I can do it for you at a price, but you gotta email me and we'll talk about it. Right here on the Sharky Show, baby. Go buy some Small Faces. It's important. Do it for Rod. He wasn't in the band yet. It was still Steve Marriott, but go buy some Humble Pie, baby. And pick up some Peter Frampton. Fuck, dude, I love his shit. It's fucking awesome. I got to review Frampton. I do. I kind of neglect it. I don't really like solo artists, you guys. I'm more into bands. If it's somebody like David Bowie, of course. But who knows? I might even review Dirk McQuickley, Band on the Run or something like that, coming up soon. So be ready, you guys, for the twists and turns and curves and, snakes and arrows that are and is the Clark the Shark Show. Be here. You're commanded by the Lord, the Holy Spirit, Christ and God and Shark to be here, and by ghosts too. They command you, so be here at the show. And buy some Small Faces. This band is incredible. If just for Kenny Jones alone, for Lane and Marriott, of course, you guys. They're all geniuses. These guys are so respected in the history of rock, just in the history of music, period. Get this album, baby. I'm out of here. Peace.